So this is really fun because it's pretty rare to get this kind of time with the manager of a Major League Baseball team. And of course, Gabe Kapler, one of the nicest in the game, accepted my invitation to have a glass of scotch, one of your favorite drinks, and talk a little ball.
I love that. It's perfect after a long day.
Well, I figured you might need it, yeah.
It's not often that I unwind at the ballpark, but the timing is perfect, and so I'm glad to be here with you, Amy. I'm going to enjoy this.
I'm so excited to do this. So I am totally going to ask you to pour. I get kind of nervous to do anything on camera where I might spill something, but you are kind of a scotch connoisseur. This is your favorite go-to if you're going to have a drink?
Yeah.
Scotch?
Scotch neat. Pouring scotch isn't any, doesn't take much skill, right?
You're making fun of me.
Well, it's not like a beer that you're going to get too much foam or anything
foam.
like that. It's just like pouring a glass of water, but maybe a smaller one.
You're real steady.
I'm steady.
You've had a long day.
That's a big pour for you, by the way.
Okay.
I'm going to go lighter on mine.
Thanks. You're going to see how I am at the end of this interview.
All right, there we go.
Okay, you did a good job. I kind of feel like I should switch those, but...
You can switch it. I'll drink more.
So the scotch that we're drinking, we'll sit it here. It's I had to look up how to say this, so I'm going to hope that I say it correctly. Lefroy. And most scotches are probably from Scotland, but it is. And so let's cheers. Take a sip. Okay, here we go.
Nice.
It's
delicious.
I'm very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, nice, sweet
It's
finish.
really smoky.
You got smoke.
Yep, on the back end of the palate.
I got it now. It was actually, it came a little bit late.
Campfire-y.
But a little bit tropical as well. Maybe some coconut, perhaps banana.
Perhaps we have some fun notes about it. What do you look for when you're looking to try a scotch or you've heard about a scotch?
I'm not really looking for anything, to be honest with you. It's like music or art, and if something touches you in the right way, I'm not trying to feel anything or experience anything when I'm having these kind of experiences. They are what they are, and it's just like food in the same way. They strike you the right way, and then you like them. It's kind of fun to pick out flavors and notes and things like that, but I don't think that's a necessary part of it. It's just whatever you're feeling in the moment.
Is there something that sticks out to you that you don't like in a scotch? Is there a type of flavor that no, that's not for me?
Not really, and my palate is similar when it comes to food and wine and beer. There are very few things that I don't like or that I strongly dislike. My preferences, richer, bolder, more flavorful. Like the Scotch is very flavorful, and perhaps it is because of the barrels. But in any event, it's more about big and bold for me.
Big and bold,
and that's true for wines as well.
This is going to be a total rookie Scotch question for you because I don't know much about it. But can you pair Scotch with food?
Steaks. I drink Scotch with steaks.
You were going to say steak.
Desserts too. Yeah, Scotch and cheesecake is a really nice combination.
Maybe we should do that. That should be the next episode, Scotch and cheesecake.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I'm going to take care of that. Oh, how did Scotch become one of your favorite drinks?
But my grandfather was a Scotch drinker. He was also a cigar smoker. And so, he was kind of refined in that way. It was like chess and poker, and maybe poker's not quite that refined, but chess, hold'em, Scotch, cigars, very traditional. He grew up in New York, and I'm guessing that his father introduced him, but it wasn't my dad, who obviously I adore, but probably came more from my grandfather.
It's interesting you said your grandpa, because my grandma's my inspiration for my Manhattans. That's my go-to, and I grew up watching her make them, and I loved watching her drink them. It's just such a relaxed time. It was 5 o'clock every night, and 5 o'clock came and Grandma had her Manhattan, and that always stayed with me.
Yeah.
And I love them because of that.
It's nice to have a calm memory of somebody like that, just like a mellow memory. Yeah. That's how I think about my grandfather as well.
So you mentioned your dad, and you have some new body art on your left hand. Will you share
Sure.
what inspired you
Yeah.
to do that?
My grandmother is also involved in this story. So as you know, my dad died in December of 2020. He had Lewy body dementia, which is an aggressive form of dementia, and I was also dealing with some Parkinson's. And so we did a ceremony or service on Thanksgiving of this past year, and my aunts were passing around roses, and the roses were sort of the conch. So if you had a rose in your hand, you lifted up the rose, you were going to say something about my dad. And what I recognized in the moment is that if my dad had a rose, he's like this very romantic kind of, he was big, getting back to the main theme of this conversation on sensory experiences. So smells were big to him, and he would be taking the rose and shoving it in people's faces like, you gotta smell this rose, it smells so fragrant, it's such a beautiful smell. But he didn't just do that with roses, he did it with apples and oranges, and he'd pick things off of plants, and like that was just who he was. So that was the first reason, because we were passing around these roses and giving everybody an opportunity to talk about my dad. The second reason was my grandmother's name, his mother, is Rose. So, and she died a couple of years ago. She lived to be 102. But so for all of those reasons, it made it really easy to kind of create a tribute to my dad. And the reason I put it on my hand is because, I want to be reminded all the time. I always catch myself looking at it. I really think it's good work, but more importantly, it like makes me think about my dad.
Oh, that's great. I love that, and it's really beautiful. It really is.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk a little ball.
Sure.
So, such an incredible season last year, Gabe. You're named, NL Manager of the Year. Congratulations. So deserved.
Thank you.
And yet, I know the season didn't end how you wanted it to. So where are you at going into 2022, and how do you use last season? Do you use it to motivate you going in? Does it stay with you? Does it, what does it do for you?
Mostly good feelings about last year. So I don't know that we have to call back to 2021 and use it as motivation. I think there's plenty of ways to get motivated in spring training, but certainly we didn't want to lose in Game 5 to the Dodgers after winning the National League West, and I think a lot of guys still had a little bit of a taste in their mouth from that. For any number of reasons, we go to Game 5, and all the way through the game, we feel like we're in a good position to win it. And then we get into the later innings, it kind of becomes a coin flip, like who's going to get the big hit first. Dodgers end up getting the big hit and win the series. But I'm not sure that there's anything that we would have done differently in that final game that could have changed the outcome. So I think we remember that here in spring training in 2022. I do think we can always be improving our processes and our practices. So rather than thinking about, let's win 108 games this year and let's go deeper into the postseason, those are all goals. We want to win as many games as possible. We want to be the last team standing. But the method to get there is much more about how do we tune up the practices just a little bit. And in the same way, it's not about replacing Buster Posey with another Buster Posey.
Right.
It's about finding the value at the margins at every position on the field. So Joey Bart gets a little better. Kurt Casale gets a little bit better. All of our players all over the diamond are actually turning it up a little bit in their processes, in their practices. And that gives us our best chance to kind of achieve some of those results, stats, wins, ultimately championships.
Do you allow yourself to set a goal of World Series or bust? How does Gabe Kapler set his goals? Because you seem very methodic with what you do.
Yeah.
How far ahead do you let yourself go?
I think goals, when they're that big and that grand, they don't really help you focus. So kind of the step right in front of you, having a plan for the season, of course, and by way of example, understanding that we're not going to cover 162 starts. We're not going to cover every inning with 5 starters. So we have to have plans for how to cover all of those starts and all of those innings, knowing that our guys are going to need a blow from time to time. We may have an injury that we didn't expect, and we have to be ready for that. So plans are important, but really setting big goals like winning a World Series, it's something that sort of operates in the background.
Right.
What's operating when you zoom in is improving the practices. So are we as efficient as we possibly can be? Are we intense in short bursts? Are we focused on rest and recovery and getting guys off their feet as much as possible? Are we doing things like finding value in the way we attack mental health? Big initiative for us last year, something that we're doubling down on this year. And so those are the types of things that lead you to World Series championships. It's really not, I want to win the World Series. Like, of course, everybody wants to win the World Series. Everybody's goal is to...
Do you just drop like a duh?
Yeah, no, no, that's really not what I mean.
I
mean,
would.
Yeah, you would.
I'd be like, duh, of course you want to win the World Series.
I mean, of course that's on everybody's
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
Of course that's the end game and the goal. But it's really like getting locked in on the step right in front of us.
So I love that you brought up Buster Posey, because he will be severely missed by you guys, by the fan base. And I love that you said you can't replace a Buster Posey with a Buster Posey. There isn't another Buster Posey, but you do have a Joey Bart, and you do have a Kurt Casale. And, you know, how much can you say about, yes, we're going to miss Buster, but we've got these guys? You know, I mean, where do you see the strengths of Joey coming in now with more experience under his belt, and the veteran leadership, and just such, you know, so much balance with Kurt Casale? And he really wants to be here, which is great. How do they fill a void? I don't even know if you would consider it a void, but I think fans are seeing it that way. How do you fill the void of Buster Posey?
You can't, right? There's no Buster Posey coming from the minor leagues. There's no free agent that is Buster Posey. It's really trusting that Joey has taken big steps forward, which he has. My favorite anecdote of the spring with Joey so far is he caught Carlos Rodon in a live BP, and you know how catchers and pitchers will meet after they finish a live VP and talk about what went right, some of the things that need to be worked on. Joey took control of that conversation in a way that I hadn't seen him control it in the past. He had the player plan in mind when he talked to Carlos, so Carlos's player plan in mind. So he was kind of collaborating with our coaching staff, which is something that Buster did all the time.
Do you have to get away from the game to self-reflect and really be able to analyze what you did well and what you feel you need improvement on?
I think it's helpful. I haven't really been able to do that in the past, like taking a step back, and it was nice to have a little extra time this year. At the same time, I felt like something was missing, so I really wanted to accelerate and get back into the rhythm and the routine of baseball. So you get to spring training, and you're so used to the schedule being February through April. Every year, you're grinding through spring training. Okay,
so tell me, we're going to go off baseball for a minute, because I got to see you in December for Holiday Heroes, and you talked to every single child that was there. I loved it.
Thank you.
And no one went missed, and you were going to head to Europe on your own for a trip and time for you. So where did you go? What are you willing to share about it? About where you went and how that was?
I think that's the right way to play it, is just kind of open-ended and talk about whatever. I'll just riff, and you tell me when to shut up.
You riff, I'll drink.
Okay. So I went to Barcelona first, spent the first 5 or 6 days of the trip in Barcelona. And looking back, I would have probably planned my trip exclusively in Spain and spent all of my time in Barcelona. The architecture is awesome. So there was a group of locals who was having drinks at this bar. And so I ended up talking to this group of locals. We ended up spending the entire night together. So we ended up eating at like 2 o'clock in the morning, which even for Barcelona standards,
a little late.
Yeah, it's a little late. Like most,
usually like 10.
Yeah, but one of them knew of this bar that was going to be serving food late, so we ended up eating late. And then like all of us just kind of walked home. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're just kind of walking the streets of Barcelona. I ended up making friends with them and staying, like hanging out with them for most of the time that I was in Barcelona. So
neat.
I kind of wish I would have spent more time doing that.
Yeah.
Ended up going to Rome, which was incredible, right? Like jaw-dropping. We always joke about the architecture in the United States that we deem to be old.
Right. Yeah.
Right? It's like
I'm close.
This thing was built in the 1800s, and like Rome is like, we got this. So for me, it was just exploring. Yeah, it was all exploring.
Have you always been like that, where you really aren't worried about having because you have a plan all the time here? So is that how you kind of decompress, to just go somewhere and not have a plan? I would be so afraid to be hopping on and off trains and not know where I was going. I couldn't do it. I couldn't pour the scotch.
Yeah, that's a thing, that you couldn't pour the scotch. Talk about that another time. You'll pour the second
I will.
glass.
I'll do it. I'll do it on one of these. I will. I'm gonna
You're also
figure it
not
out.
drinking the scotch.
I am. I remember mine was a lot bigger than yours.
That's true.
Yes, I'm doing well.
So,
But the ability
Yeah.
to just go and not have a real plan.
my favorite type of travel is legit get lost.
Wow.
Like I want to get lost and figure out how to get back. You know, where I don't want to like be looking at navigation, maybe asking people, but one of my fantasies is like get on a highway and just drive with no destination. And this would work out very well with like a conversion van. So probably better than like a sedan with nothing in it. But be able to like find the views, find the food, find the interesting things about travel without any agenda, and just be able to be spontaneous. And that's probably because things here are so regimented, right? They're so detailed, they're so planned. And so just to be off of that schedule for a little while is kind of a blessing.
Last one about Europe. You know, when you're in the Bay Area or you're here, you're recognized all the time. Did anybody know Gabe Kapler over there?
Oh.
Isn't that nice?
Nobody knows baseball
Well,
over there.
I know.
I
Was
think
that kind of refreshing to not be recognized? And
it's not something that I thought about all that much either way. I don't think about it too much in San Francisco. When I was in Boston, I didn't think about it too much in Boston either. Because and Philadelphia was quite recognizable in Philly too. So, but I don't really think about that all that much. But I will say that it reminded me that baseball is a game that we know so well, and we've had it be a part of our kind of our DNA for so long. That's what it takes to really understand the game. Anybody else that you're trying to explain it to is just like, I don't get it, and it takes a real investment. But we just
you're just born with it. Here, you're born with it.
we just we lived it and we live it. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of your new guys, because
Sure.
it's going to be fun to watch them go. And Jock Peterson, who seems like an absolute character. I already love his energy, and his hair is it's pretty awesome.
I've known Jock for a really long time, so being playful,
yes, of course.
I love him. He's so expressive. He's so himself, and so unapologetically himself, which is a characteristic that I really respect, and I think the rest of our players really respect it, and our staff does as well.
Okay, and then we have some guys returning that I was super excited about with Darren Ruff. Got a 2-year deal, and then Casali, Yaz, and Dom Leone will be here for another year for sure. What does that feel like for you to have those kind of, they weigh on people? Am I going to be here? What am I doing? What's my future? And when you're able to finish that off and package it up, and we know what we're doing for the next season, what does that do for you guys, for you to know who you have and that they're happy to be here?
Well, let's talk about Darren in particular. Obviously, a favorite of his teammates, myself included.
Yeah, he's great.
Darren has always been a great player. So this is sort of recognition of that greatness over a really long period of time.
Right.
Before he went to Korea, we all thought of him as a great hitter.
Yeah.
But the industry didn't necessarily recognize how good he was. Philly thought he was good. The Dodgers thought he was a good hitter. He goes to Korea, and he performed, but he never performed to how he performed in 2020 and 2021.
Sure.
He goes to Korea. He's an absolute animal. OPS 950 plus or something like that for 3 years straight. Comes back here, and he has to do it again. He has to prove himself all over again. So 2020 is an excellent year, but everybody's like, yeah, it's a shortened season. Let's see him do it like one more time. 2021, I think he really showed that he is one of the better hitters, one of the more dangerous hitters in the game, versus righties and versus lefties. So for him, at this stage in his career, to get that recognition and to earn that multi-year contract and to really get the foundation of financial security, for most people in the world, absolute financial security is, for players, it's really freeing. Interesting thing is, I don't know how much better this is going to make Darren Ruff. I'm so happy for him. His teammates are over the moon for him. I am as well. We believe, and I believe, that diversity is actually a great formula for winning. It's not just a box-checking exercise. It's a way to get a competitive advantage. And we were able to accomplish that last season, and the foundation is designed to prove that concept.
Well, I mean, we're helping out women drinking this. Quick note on the Scotch,
Love
right?
that. Go ahead.
Founded in 1815 by Donald and Alexander Johnston, men, of course. In 1954, though, they left the distillery to Bessie Williamson, and she became the first female to own a Scotch distillery in the 20th century. And as we sit here, it's Women's History Month.
Super cool.
It's kind of perfect.
This is a perfect tie-in.
Okay. So I have 8 million more questions for you, but I'm going to save them for the season.
Can't
and more
wait.
Scotch.
I'm looking forward to another opportunity to have a drink.
You need more Scotch.
I will.
I can't even cheers you.
Once we
Because
you finish up.
Eyes. Yeah.
Oh,
eyes.
that was
Eyes.
my bad.
I know. I got
That's
you.
probably after a glass of Scotch.
Right?
I'm off my game now.
Yeah. We'll fill you up, and I appreciate your time. Gabe Kapler.
Thanks, Amy.